what you need in stock with people who know their grills.
This is Brad from Gibson A's Hardware in Clinton, Illinois. Stop in to see us, The Helpful Place, at 114 North Madison Street, Clinton.
See participating store for details.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Every farmer feeds the world. A few take it further. Farmers who partner with Benson Hill to plant our high-protein, non-GMO soybeans do just that. Some Benson Hill varieties are higher in protein right out of the ground, contributing to more sustainable food manufacturing. The majority of our farmers earn more per acre planting Benson Hill soybeans than commodity beans. 2023 contracts are still available with our best incentive options expiring on November 15th. Visit BensonHillFarmers.com to earn more.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio in this segment is Mr. Curt Homann. He is the Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council. Long time no see, Curt. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I will tell you, I missed last month, and that's because I became a grandfather.
Became a granddad.
I
Congratulations.
know, so very exciting.
That's great.
But yeah, it's great to be back.
Well, we appreciate you making time for us, and it's a busy time. The DCDC things never stop. Business world never stops. Last time we caught up was a few months ago. We were talking micro grants, and I feel like a few other Rev grant maybe. How about those processes? How'd they go?
Yeah, great. So our micro grant did wrap up, and we did award four. There were four recipients, three of which have received their funds so far, and we're still working on the fourth one. So those went really well. They were very competitive, and it was a great process. The Rev application has ended, and I believe there were five presented or chosen to present, and that'll come up in a couple weeks here later this month. All right. So we'll be talking about those maybe in December. Okay. And some of those recipients as well. I don't even know who they are though. So an outside organization, First National Bank, selects those that come in, and I'm not even sure who they are, but I'm excited to see and hear.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. How much do you want to talk about those? I don't know if you're ready to divulge.
Sure, we can talk a little bit about those. So the in terms of the Rev grant, I will tell you there's 15,000 that's going to be awarded, and that's exciting. And again, I don't know a lot of those details. In terms of the micro grant that we awarded a few months earlier, the Cutting Edge and More was one of our recipients, and I'm actually going to hand deliver them a check this morning. But they were one of the Clinton recipients. We had Farmer Tan and Spa in Farmer City, and the CrossFit Influence were the others. And again, the fourth one we are still working with to get their award. So I don't want to share those details just yet. But,
that's fine.
They were great applications, great presentations, and well-deserving businesses.
Excellent.
For sure.
Well, we look forward to when all those details are out there and the impact that they have and all of that. So very good. And how often do grant opportunities come up through DCDC and other sources?
So our micro grant, we've done that. We started that during COVID, and we've continued that. Now we look at that on a year-to-year basis based on our budget. Sure. So it was really important that we we started that and continued that during COVID and this past year. But that's typically once a year, and we hope to continue that. The Rev grant with First National Bank, we actually patterned our micro grant after that. Oh, cool. Theirs started at 2 or 3 years before ours did, and again, that's also once a year. So there's those two opportunities directly from local sources that we talk about and promote every year. Outside grant opportunities, during COVID, there had been some more, and these weren't DCDC specific, but there were certainly some other grant opportunities for businesses. Sometimes it, had to deal with lost revenues due to COVID and those things. So Those were more of the federal government programs or
Yeah.
state government programs. But
Well, and I'm curious, was thinking there as you're talking, how in not just the applications for these grant opportunities, but as you get out and talk to business owners, how much are you finding COVID had an impact on our local businesses?
It's really interesting because it there were businesses that I would talk to that COVID affected them in a positive manner in their cycle, but those weren't a huge number. But I'm glad to hear those sides of those stories too, that our sales increased because it was harder to get products, so people would come in and they would just, when they had it, they would buy it.
Right.
But the other side of it is most people were certainly impacted by by COVID, and there was very little in between, I guess. So it was either it affected them positively or it affected them negatively.
Yeah,
It wasn't
wow.
really, most didn't say nothing changed.
Yeah. Wow.
So, we try to help. Well, we try to help every business, whether they're doing great or whether they're struggling a little bit because of whatever reason. But, I would say if there's businesses still facing those things, I mean, there's still some monies out there. It's a lot less than it was before, some programs out there, but maybe there's some other local programs or just some knowledge assistance that we can help out with.
And one of those could be end of year planning, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to me about what end of year planning is.
So end of year planning, this is a great, obviously, we're into Thanksgiving time in November. So it's time for most businesses to start planning for their next year. And, it's something I always did, even if your accounting system is a different fiscal time. It just seems like the start of a new year is a great time to really kick things off, maybe the way you want to. So, I always take time to share a little bit this time of the year with the need and the importance of business planning. So ultimately, what does that mean? Okay, so business planning at the very minimum, you want to plan your following year, and some of it obviously is guesses, but business income, business expenses. Am I going to be hiring a new employee? Can I hire a new employee? Do I need a new employee? Am I going to add a product line? Do I feel like I need to get rid of some product or whatever it is? So I always recommend the 1 year plan, and then a 3 to 5 year plan, and then a long-term plan.
All financial or
financial, business, product related. It could be a new venture in terms of we're going to expand our business into this area as well. Those typically things you don't just wake up one day and say, hey, I'm gonna start selling candles now, as part of my real estate business. I mean, does it make sense? That one probably doesn't, but
right.
It is an important thing to do on a variety of levels. I always, when I did personal business planning over years and years, I would start this time of the year. I would fine tune it, and by January 1, I was ready to roll, and I knew exactly where I wanted to end up my next year, and then I knew exactly what I needed to do in theory to get there. And 100% of the time, I never hit it exactly, but I always felt like if I knew what I was going to be doing that following year, I knew how to advertise, I knew how to budget, I knew how to spend my time, I knew how to spend my resources to get to those business goals.
You're moving forward,
you're moving forward
in a
absolutely
sense. Yeah.
And so many, sometimes so many businesses, and there's a lot of good long-term businesses that, man, they can just function, but I can tell you they're always planning. It's not just once a year, they're always planning. But many times small businesses, a lot of times I'll see business owners, they just kind of get into that rut, and they really need to sit down and kind of fine tune their goals and where they're going.
Right, definitely. Again, our guest in studio today is Curt Homann with the DeWitt County Development Council. Let's say there's a business owner out there that wants to get that ball rolling, but they don't know where to start, or maybe this is kind of new in terms of thinking about a new or not side venture, but a new venture as a part of their business. Can they talk to you about that?
Sure.
How about those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do use SCORE mentors a little bit as well. SCORE business members are retired business owners. But absolutely, a great initial time to do that, maybe run through some things with me. We can refer out to SCORE if we need to as well.
Okay.
SCORE's no cost, no cost to us or the business owner.
I see.
So it just another good resource. But sometimes you're right, it's just hard to get started. But once people just start writing things down, it becomes much easier.
I see. Gotcha. Very good. When it comes to end of year business planning, like what have I missed in this conversation? I will be honest, I'm the least business savvy person on the planet. So I feel like I don't know where to take this conversation. What am I missing here, Curt?
So, I think a big part of it, if you've done, and sometimes small businesses miss out on these things too. If you've done your financial bookkeeping along the way, that's another important reason to do that. So, I always did tax planning for my year end too. So if I needed to prepay expenses from if I had a great year, I wanted to prepay expenses for the following year. So I always estimate my tax bill, before the end of December, because I may want to prepay advertising. I may wanted to prepay utility costs and those types of things, just to get that deduction into this year, as opposed to wait for next year, so I can reduce my tax liability. So I think that's a big part of it as well, to make sure people are doing the financial processes in place. If it was a down year, I'm going to hold those things off, but I need to have a good feel for what my tax situation is going to be. And I would always tell people too, and I always did myself, with my long-term goals, sometimes I would throw in a crazy idea. I thought something that's been floating around in the back of my head for a while, and I would put it on paper. And it was always fun to go back and look at those things. Almost never did I actually ever do those things. But it was always fun to look back and on occasion I did, something that I thought was a crazy idea 5 years ago. I could go back and look at that and say, that really makes a lot of sense now. And I may not have thought of that. I would also suggest people throw in some personal goals as well. So if the plan is you're going to have a 7:00 sales meeting, and and you're going to go to the gym every morning, all of a sudden, if that means you're starting your day at 3 a.m., that's not probably a real practical goal for most people.
Right.
If you put in some of those personal goals, they have to, for most business owners, they have to fit into your business schedule as well too.
Definitely. Yeah, for
no
sure.
doubt.
Sure. Well, Curt, again, anything in this conversation you want to put out there for us this morning?
No, I don't think so. Again, I would just say if you want some help getting started with that, if you want someone to look at your goals, sometimes showing those to somebody kind of gives some accountability to yourself. I'm glad to be that person if it makes sense for you, and we can follow up with them quarterly or never, or every 6 months, or whatever you want to do as a business owner.
How do folks get a hold of you, Curt?
Best way, give me a call, 935-5271. Always, you can visit our Facebook page. And of course, we have a website as well.
Easy enough. Again, Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council, my guest in studio. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Beacon Insurance agent in Clinton. More to come on the morning show.
WHOW.
Illinois Ag better. Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all trading higher at this hour. December corn up 3, 682 1/4. March corn up 3, 687 3/4. May corn up 2 3/4, 687 1/2. November beans up 25 1/2, 1452 1/4. January beans up 26 1/2, 1463 1/2. March beans 1470 1/4. Up 26 1/4. December Chicago wheat up 2 1/2, 843. March wheat up 2 1/4, 862. December bean meal 420 even, up 650. December bean oil 77.16, up $1.87. In the livestock market, November feeders 178.32, up 32 cents. December live cattle 152.05, up a dime. December lean hogs down a nickel, 83.32. In the energy market, December crude oil up 420 at this hour, 92.37. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
Are you a friend of agriculture? This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. we're giving a $500 Friends of Ag discount to anyone that orders a new Chevrolet or Buick to be built just for you this month. Are you a friend of Ag? You are if you're a member of any ag organization, employed by any ag-related business, including research, inputs, manufacturing, sales, and marketing, and of course, ag education. Come in, order yours today. BombChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Clinton Save-A-Lot owner Dave Jackson here with a supply chain update. While we're working as best we can to keep our shelves stocked with the items you need and want every day, we're experiencing never-before-seen interruptions in product availability and delivery, both through Save-A-Lot and our direct suppliers. In most cases, they can't run their production lines due to the lack of workers, plus a shortage of truck drivers. Despite all that, we're working to keep the meat, produce, and other products you buy in stock and on our shelves every day. Your Clinton Save-A-Lot appreciates your business, and we hope to see you soon.
Life is uncertain. Stop in and see me, State Farm Agent Jason France, on the west side of the Clinton Square, or click our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com and see how our full lineup of State Farm insurance and financial services can help protect your family.
Local farm broadcaster Jared White covers the local agriculture news you need to know. Hear his reports by downloading the free WHOW mobile app.
Employers with employees who are exposed to extreme heat or cold put workers at risk and could face higher workers' compensation costs. With help from the Illinois On-Site Safety and Health Program, employers can request a free and confidential on-site visit to identify and develop solutions to workplace hazards. Simply visit worksafe.illinois.gov, sponsored by the Illinois Department of Labor via a 21D grant from the U.S. Department of Labor and aired in cooperation with the IBA and this station.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. My guest in studio, Curt Homann, Executive Director of the DeWitt County Development Council. And Curt, as we talk here this morning, I can't believe it, but we're coming up on you being with DCDC for a year. How about this year? What's it been like for you?
I've been in the role of Executive Director for a year. Of course, I've been with DCDC probably for 15 years. Mm-hmm. But it's gone really quickly, and it's, in my eyes, it's been a great year. We've gotten several things accomplished. So we talked about goals a little bit ago. I mean, DCDC had goals and will continue to have goals. I'm also doing goal planning for DCDC for next year. Mm-hmm. But to give you an idea, my goal was 25 to 30 business visits a month, mm-hmm. and that it has easily been accomplished this past 12 months. Mm-hmm. The microgrant, we've continued that program. I felt that was really important to do. Mm-hmm. The Rev, we of course continued that partnership with First National Bank, which mm-hmm. also was incredibly important to do. Right. One of the bigger things we did do is our revolving loan fund. Mm-hmm. We actually, I believe we had 3 revolving loan revolving loan fund recipients this year. That's great. And those were low interest loans that businesses use to help expand or start or move their business forward. So we had not had one of those in several years, and it was really just getting the word out and talking with business people and finding that need and presenting a great solution in that regard. Great. So nice. Absolutely, it's been a really a good year.
Productive year, it sounds like.
It has. That's not to say that we just sit back and say that's where we're at. I mean, next year we'll bring, I think, even bigger. I think next year will be even more important than this past year, for sure.
Did you find early on, did like COVID things hold you back, whether it was mitigations? I know like the leaders breakfasts and those types of things were kind of staples of DCDC. Did you find that some of those, the hangover of COVID, did that hold you back in what you wanted to do at all?
I would say generally no. I mean, I was still making those one-on-one contacts, mm-hmm. Whether they were in person. Most of the time they were still in person. I mean, if the business was open for business, I didn't have issues, talking with them. But we would do phone and
virtual calls,
Zoom meetings, those types of things. But I don't really feel like COVID held back my position. Now we did stop the the leaders breakfast, leaders lunches, and we will kick off that again. We're going to do an annual dinner in March. And then we will we'll likely follow up with those every, we'll probably do a couple more, a leaders breakfast or lunch.
I see.
Two more of those for next year.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
And then depending on turnout and depending on how people respond to those, we'll continue them, but it's just how often will be the question.
Yeah, gotcha. Now I know you did a lot of things in terms of going to conventions and various like fairs in terms of like for certain segments of industry. How much of what you did with that shapes what you want to do next year?
That's a great question, actually. So some of them were real specific, in terms of how other communities or how our grant monies are out there for certain types of projects. And so sometimes it was just, I need to go find out this information to see if that information fits into what is happening in DeWitt County. So, it was really an opportunity to learn. And maybe it didn't shape, the direction of DCDC whatsoever, but if it meant I found a contact that helps us, get $100,000 for some city project or county project in the future, then it was well worth it. Yeah. And I never, honestly, anytime there was a cost, I always personally absorb those. I always felt like I never know what I'm going to get out of these conventions or meetings or those things, and I didn't want to charge DCDC for it. That being said, they were all beneficial in some way. There's no doubt. It's will I use that knowledge this year? I'm not so sure. Will I use it in 10 years? I'm sure I'll use some of that knowledge that I gained at where I went this year within the next 10 years. That will absolutely benefit DeWitt County.
You had a business, I know, for many years in Farmer City, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct.
So what did you learn anything about economic development, being a business owner for so long? Were like anything eye-opening happen in the last year from a, how economic development works, things like that?
Yeah. So, my primary business, I had an insurance and a real estate business, and they operated under the same roof. And
I didn't know that.
Yes. And so from that perspective, it was interesting to see what kind of calls I would get in terms of business needs. For 3 or 4 years, it seemed like I was getting a request for a bakery space, and the places didn't want to purchase the building. They wanted to rent space. I mean, that's kind of a risky business model, is to open a new bakery in a small town. And there was no way they could go in and afford to buy a space along with buying equipment and those types of things. So there's no doubt that economic development, it was also important from a real estate perspective. You needed to know some of the land use rules, the zoning areas, the TIF districts, all of those things to help put those deals together, really.
So you had a lot already kind of figured out then. I mean, I didn't realize you had a real estate business. I knew you did insurance, but I didn't know real estate was on the side or a part of that. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So here's an interesting story along with that. I had the insurance business first, and a local lady contacted me, asked if I would be interested in buying a real estate business. And this isn't typical of me, but I told her no. I said, I'm really busy with insurance. I've got a lot going on. And one of the buildings that I rented out to a commercial business, he actually ran into this lady at the grocery store and came to see me and said, you really need to talk to her. Why would you just tell her no without even sitting down and talking to her? And I'm pretty open-minded. I talked to everybody. So I called her up and I said, hey, let's at least sit down and talk. And really it was an opportunity that made a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I really think that business person for reminding me.
Yeah, definitely. Curt, got to let you go, my friend. Good to see you as always. Curt Homann, DCDC, our guest. Network News is now.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton 92.3 FM.